This is 2B part 3. You've now worked out the approximate annual payments that are going to be made in terms of the minimum payment that has to be made annually, any additional payments that could be made, that's an input, so that's chosen by the customer, the bonus rates, the contribution rates, what the car value is, that's an input again, the deposit, and what the hire purchase value will be. What we now need to look at is what are going to be the annual payments that are made every year, and in what year will the customer take ownership of the vehicle. And so that's what we're looking to calculate here, is when will the customer take ownership of the vehicle. Now what I've done is I've started off by putting this table in, which was the question, and so I put that data in there. I haven't put the actual data itself, just the labels. And we're just going to have a look at what each of these things mean. So the year of hire purchase is just an incremental number from 1 to 10, which represents year 1 being the first year of a hire purchase, year 2 being the second year, and so on. The actual year is, well, what actual year is that hire purchase in? So we start off, because we've got August 2014, so the actual year of the hire purchase 2014, it will then be 2015, 16 and so on. The interest, that is calculated by multiplying the APR bonus percent here by the hire purchase value, and that will tell us how much is owed. Then we've got the annual payments. The annual payments is quite a complex formula because it has to add up what has been made in terms of the minimum payment, the additional payment, also in a contribution, that will be 5.19% in this case of the £450, and also you'll see in a bit that that is going to have to increase each year, so the minimum payment and the additional payments will increase each year by the consumer price index, which is quite similar to inflation. And then the balance is how much is left to pay. So that is when you've got the interest and the annual payment, you look at what the hire purchase value was, you add the interest, you subtract the annual payment, that gives you the balance. Now the next year the balance will be whatever the previous year's balance was plus the interest less the annual payment. Now the ownership year itself is quite complex, and I'm going to look at that when we've actually completed all of these things that calculate the actual year, the interest, the annual payment and the balance. We'll have a look at the ownership year and how that actually works at that stage, rather than focusing on it too much at this point. What we are going to do though is just label some of the things, name the ranges. So our actual year, we're going to call actual year. So you can see here I've called it actual year. It's not an individual cell, it's the whole range. Interest, you can see there I've called it annual interest. The annual payment, I've called annual payment. And the balance, I've called annual balance. We also know that these three columns will need to be currency, so we might as well set them at this stage. Now it also tells us that each year additional payments will increase by the consumer price index. The first increase happens in year 2. So the first year there has been no inflation or no consumer price increase, and so you just use the normal values. But from year 2 onwards these values start to increase. Now these values are stored in this file here, cpi.csv, which we'll just open. And we're going to copy and paste these into a worksheet called CPI rates, as we're instructed in the question. We'll just paste those in there. So that's that bit done. And we'll name this CPI table. So they're going to highlight that and we'll call this CPI table. So let's just have a look at what you're going to be doing. You're going to be completing that ownership model. You'll print it on one side of A4, including the row and column headings. So it's this that we're going to complete, and it's this that we'll be printing. So the next tutorial is going to take you through actual year, interest and balance. Then there'll be a tutorial on the annual payment, and then the final tutorial will be on the ownership year.